Welcome back to Optimum Live, and this is episode 14 that we're doing this time. And I will admit, it's not actually live because we are recording it, but it's as live so that we've still got the authentic conversation. The reason we're doing that is that we might add some overlays and B-roll that's going to help you, because this is very much an educational piece that we're doing. The title is What is Conveyancing? The good news is you're not going to rely on me. I'm Chris Dawes from Visual PR. We've got the expert in who does know here at Optimum Professional Services, and it is the solicitor and head of legal, Iain Mason. Iain, greetings, sir. No pressure on you, mate.
No, absolutely not, Chris.
It really is. We're trying to sort of blow the roof off of this one to some extent. And I tell you why I found this more interesting than I thought it was going to be is that Michael Blaken turned to me and he said, do you know what conveyancing is? And I went, yeah, it's to do with when you're buying and selling houses. He said, okay, but give me the description of what conveyancing is. And suddenly realised I couldn't do that. Now, you have to deal with this day in, day out with people like me not fully understanding it. And I think the idea is to try and help people see that it's not as difficult as it might seem.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It is for you.
Well, it has its moments, and it can be. I mean, it's, what is it, conveyancing. It's a big word. It's a big word? No, not really, big-ish.
Well, I'll give the description and then we'll discuss this.
Yeah.
In law, conveyancing is the transfer of legal title of real property from one person to another, or the granting of an encumbrance such as a mortgage or a lien.
Lien.
Yeah. A typical conveyancing transaction has two major phases: the exchange of contracts and completion, also called settlement, when legal title passes. Does that sum it up well enough? That was from Wikipedia.
I think that's a bit of an American one, if I'm honest.
Is it?
But to be honest, the reality is, it is a process, and with certainly in England and Wales. The bit that really bites them when it gets serious is the whole exchange of contracts, because that's when you're committed. Yeah,
absolutely. But we've also, and this is why we're going to go through the steps that are happening through it so that people understand what's going on. Because sometimes you can go, why is this taking ages?
Yeah.
It's like, well, there is actually a lot, both you and people you're waiting to send info through to you are having to do through this process. And so that, although that's the stage they're committing, that's the bit they want to get to as quick as possible. So we're going to go through the processes. Right, first things first. Should we address this as though I'm a buyer? Is it easier looking at it that way? Because there's less for the seller, isn't there?
There is, and I think if we do it from that perspective, I can then sort of take us through it, because really what the buyer is asking, I think from an educational perspective, it's probably useful that when the boot's on the other foot, if you've bought, there'll probably be a stage when you come to sell.
And you want to know what's going on with the other side.
Well, precisely.
Okay, fine. So let's start right from the beginning. I now have found my dream house. The offer is accepted, because that's done before I engage with you, isn't it? That I would put an offer in with an estate agent.
It depends where you are, how switched on you are, and how sophisticated you are. Because a lot of people, if it was just a standard one, the first thing you do is whether you're by yourself or with the missus or your partner or whatever, oh, I think we need to move, or I'm looking to move. And whether you're online, looking at the online agents, or you're actually sort of walking up and down the high street, looking in the windows,
Yeah.
that looks nice. Let's go and make an offer on that one. And I suspect the first thing when you go in with the estate agent, they'll be, yes, pleased to meet you, what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And it won't be too long before they'll be asking, well, have you got legal advisors? Have you got a conveyancer involved? Now, it does vary. Some people will have had solicitors previously, or they're sophisticated enough. And sometimes this will be the first time that they've ever thought of needing to get in touch with a lawyer to help them with their house purchase. Yeah.
Okay, so my wife and I have found the dream house. What do I need to now do, and at which point am I going to engage with you then?
Well, if you went in on the Saturday,
Yeah.
I'd be imagining, Chris, that I'd be getting a phone call or an email from you on the Monday morning to say, do you know what, Iain? We're buying a property. Can you help me with it?
Cool.
And I will be going, okay, Chris, that's fantastic news. What are you buying? Where is it? How much is it? And how are you funding this? Yeah.
Fine.
There is the administrative side of things that I would need to deal with that sometimes causes, well, a bit like opening a bank account. We need to be satisfied as to who you are and that there's nothing iffy going on, because one of the big things that we have from a regulatory perspective is money laundering. So we are sort of gatekeepers, that we need to be satisfied that the people that we're dealing with are legitimate and the money that's being used to purchase a property has come from legitimate sources. So, but that's almost an adjunct to the conveyancing.
Well, yes, but I still think it's important in this to understand. And yes, we've not got to the conveyancing yet, have we?
No.
We're sort of, I've got it here where you, do we do this making a payment on account? Does that happen?
Well, it will do.
Yeah. We have to provide ID and all of that
normally, again, we need to be satisfied that we make sure that people aren't up to anything nefarious.
Absolutely.
So, yes, we'd expect, passport ID. This day and age, there's all sorts of apps online that we use, e-verification that people can do from their mobile. So they essentially upload the data that they need to via a phone. And with the wonders of technology, it does the data scrape from bank accounts, it cross-checks passports, driver's licenses, various forms of identity, so that we're satisfied that the person that we're looking to engage with is who they say they are, and that their source of funds, source of wealth, it's all legitimate as well. That they hadn't sort of, in your instance, you hadn't held up a bank the Monday before the Saturday you decided to
That wasn't how I could afford a house,
Yeah. So there is a lot of increasingly source of funds. Is it coming from a bank account or a recognised financial institution? And then its source of wealth, we would almost be looking at, right, it's come from savings, it's come from an inheritance, it's come from wages, it's come from a bonus.
So, it's come from a house that's about to sell.
Yeah, that type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. And apologies, I know we probably shouldn't have gone into, I shouldn't have taken you into too much detail on that, because we were trying to then look at the conveyancing. But I just think it's important to know that, first of all, we have to engage with you, you do checks, things like that. Now we start getting into the conveyancing, or the initial stages of the conveyancing.
I guess it's the initial stages. I mean, it's a bit. If we're talking about houses, I guess we're at the foundations. We're at the foundation stage, really. In that there's certain things that we've once we've cleared those bases, in that we've checked you out. You've come across as legitimate. I don't have sufficient concerns to be making any reports to anybody.
It's the first time you said that to me.
Well, there we go, Chris. There we go. So once we've got over that, what I would then expect to sort out the paperwork that we'll work out what I'm going to charge you for my time involved in what you're buying.
Yep.
So if you're buying, I'm buying an existing property. It's a freehold. It's in its own plot in the middle of nowhere. I'm thinking, all right, that looks quite straightforward, sort of, I guess, plain vanilla. There's no bells and whistles, but
you would know this sort of stuff as early as that?
Well, what we'd expect, what tends to happen is that the agents will then issue their sales memorandum, and hopefully the brochure, so we get an idea.
Because I've engaged with you, the agents that are sorting out on behalf of the sellers, in effect, that I then go, yes, here's my solicitor.
Yeah, because that'll be one of the first things that the agents will ask you.
Yeah.
Because one would hope that if there's a property in a window on an agent's books, they will have done their bit and have already got the sellers. They will know who the sellers are.
Yeah.
And one would hope that the sellers have already taken some steps to instructing solicitors or lawyers. It might not be, because people can put things on the market and they might not bother doing that sort of admin foundation work until somebody makes an offer.
Right.
Yeah. The process is, so the estate agents, show the properties, get an offer agreed. Yeah, there might be a haggle in the price. If it's on for, say, 400, you might think.
Do you get involved in that at all?
We don't tend to at the first, certainly not normally on the residential side, because I guess the price is what the price is. I mean, it's a bit different from, I suppose, a commercial property in terms of how things are valued, but the agents will probably have a price in their mind and the sellers will have a price in their mind as to what they think they're going to accept for it.
And just by way of information, you're also involved in commercial property conveyancing as well? Yeah. And
this is the one thing about conveyancing, whether it's resi or whether it's commercial, the principles are pretty much the same.
So we've got the challenge in this episode to try and sort of not disappear down all the nuances let alone rabbit holes, which I appreciate is a tricky one to do, but to help everybody understand what conveyancing is, etc. And I apologise that I'm going to have to sort of drag you around on that.
Look, Chris, it's not a problem. I mean, I think fundamentally it doesn't matter. I mean, we've got it here: commercial property, residential sales. At the end of the day, the way the law operates, it's all property. Yeah, there are nuances to.
And you've got information that needs to be passing about and collated or provided, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me try and make this simple for everybody. The first thing, I mean, I don't know whether this is true. The first thing I've got is that you're requesting information from local authority.
Well, we're assuming a step before has happened, okay?
Okay.
Because normally the process would be offer agreed, sales memorandum or heads of terms are issued, and then there'll be correspondence. What I would expect to get from the seller's lawyers, or seller's legal advisors, is the contract pack. And the contract pack is the contract for sale, proof of title, which this day and age would be stuff from the land registry, what are called the official copies, official copy register, official copy of the title plan, which is the little bit of paper with the red line showing this is what they own. And if there's any sort of supporting documents that are referred to on the legal title, if it's residential, you would expect the sellers to also have prepared what's called the property information form, which, clues in the name, sets out what the questions, looking at the property from the road, who's responsible for the boundaries on the left, right, at the back. Have you got any issues with the neighbours? What rights does the property enjoy? Have you extended? Are there any guarantees? Basically, it's an information dump from the seller about the property that's being bought. Okay. Once I've got that, that gives me something to then order my searches. Okay. Property, the principle, until such time as the powers that be ever change it, is buyer beware. So there's a limited duty of disclosure on the part of the sellers in terms of what they are obliged to provide.
Really?
Yeah, and it can be a bit of it's an evolving world. With conveyancing, but traditionally the idea is the Latin, the only bit that I can still remember, which is caveat emptor, buyer beware. So the onus is on the buyer, and it might be if you were buying something for a knockdown price, you might just think, not bothered, if I'm getting it for 50, or I'm buying something for $5,000, is it worth it? Don't know. What's your risk appetite? But if for most people, particularly if there's a mortgage involved, you'll need to be carrying out your searches, which typically in this day, the main ones, local authority search, drainage and environmental, but there are various depending on where you're buying, because if you're in, say, on the edge of Bristol, or say over in the Forest of Dean, you might be looking at needing to do a coal mining search.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, just to check if there's any issues with subsidence. And there's a part, if you're up in Cheshire, it's the Cheshire brine search that you can do. If you're in London, is there any issues with underground? How close to?
Yeah, of course.
So there's various searches that you can do. I won't bother you with some of the other ones that are there, like chancel search. That's one that's looked at as well.
And this really is where you come into your own. Us engaging with you is that's where you will know that we need to be looking.
Yeah,
at those
because
things.
I think fundamentally, I guess this is where I sound a bit blasé. It's not meant to. This is what I do day in, day out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas for a lot of people, what you probably buy and sell a house maybe 2-3 times in your lifetime. If we're just talking about where you're choosing to live, yeah, you're probably not going to be, oh, right, okay, what's this all about? I've forgotten. And it's again, it's not really changed in the 20 odd years that I've been doing it. The fundamental principles haven't. There's ways in which the information can be turned around and provided more, sort of in a bit more streamlined fashion. But I guess where it comes back down to, all of this is me translating a whole lot of information. Yeah, bit of this, bit of that, bit of this, bit of that. Trying to translate and turn that all into something coherent, which at the end of the day, fundamentally, if you're spending, what, 250,000, 200, however many thousands on what you're buying, am I going to get burnt or stung? Is there any reason why I shouldn't be spending that money on that particular property?
Yes. Yeah. And have I heard stories that even, like, say, mortgage lenders are sort of wanting to know more of that information to protect their investment?
Yeah, they will do. And I think that's fundamentally on a lot of the, certainly on the buy side.
Yes.
In conveyancing, I think a lot of legal advisors are more concerned about getting the wrong side of a lender than they are about a buyer. Because a buyer might be thinking, right, I just want to bloody move house.
Yeah,
I just want to live there. Well, what difference does it? What does that? Makes no difference to me. Might not make any difference to you, but your lender has got particular requirements. And some lenders, it's interesting when you look at it's what's called the lender's handbook, how some lenders' requirements are a lot more particular than others.
Yeah.
Again, this is almost a topic of conversation where I need to be. Property is like one of those things where you can quite easily go off the edge down a very, very deep hole.
Yes,
yeah.
I know.
And it's a bit Alice in Wonderland because you're just thinking, just how far am I going to fall before I hit the bottom?
And we mean by information, just to stop the scare thing, it's because I know that because you and I have had these conversations, haven't we? And we suddenly go, hang on a minute, we've just disappeared down there.
Yeah.
But the way I like to wrap that up for the context of this is that, as you said, it's what you do day out, day in,
I guess
day
that
out.
is my job to sort of say, look, is that a bridge? Looking ahead, there's a bridge that we're going to need to cross, or rather, there's something coming up that I'm hoping the bridge is already there. Because if the bridge ain't there, is that the route we want to be going towards?
Yeah.
Because that could be, there's always ways to get across a river, shall we say? Yeah. It's a lot easier if the bridge is already there.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So you're doing these initial searches, getting that information, which in theory, I was going to say should, but certainly could be very quickly because the seller hopefully has got the majority of the pack together.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I've acted for motivated sellers who want to make the process as easy as possible. There's no reason, if you know that you're selling a property, and this is where people, like we're in England and Wales, people always say, why can't it be more like it is in Scotland, where when the offer is made, that's when it's all done. Really? That is the deal struck when the offer is made. But that's on the basis that a bit like if you buy at an auction, a decent seller will have got all of the searches, all of the replies, everything that they need about that property in one place at that moment in time. Rather than wait for the inevitable questions, or rather gamble on the fact that, oh, well, maybe they will ask it, maybe they won't. Let's just see what happens. From a seller's perspective, the more that you can put in place at the start of the process, the better, because it's information that if the buyer's properly advised, it's going to be something that's going to be raised anyway. Yeah. And some people will think, oh, maybe they won't ask about the that conversion we had done. We didn't really bother to get planning for that. Well, should you have done? You're kind of a bit cross fingers from a seller's side that I think I might be able to get away with it. Well, okay, you might be able to, but if you don't, you're probably going to be annoying a lot of people, not least the buyer, that it's kind of a bit obvious that there's a great big building in the back garden that you haven't really got any paperwork for. So, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which I hear that story
Yeah.
a reasonable.
And sometimes, yeah, you could turn around and sort of say, yeah, benefit of the doubt for that. Oh, I didn't know any better. And that's, the planning rules have changed because we've got permitted development. There's all sorts of things with all of this. But essentially what I do from a buyer's perspective is to try and identify, right, and what's the approach I like to take? Traffic lights almost, yeah? In the ideal world, all I'm doing is sort of dotting I's and crossing T's in that, well, it's, what was it, the Ron seal, bit of plug for them. It's exactly what it says on the tin, in that this is the house and I'm really looking to make sure that everything checks out. There's no reason not to buy it. Yeah, and I'm expecting everything to check out and it all works out as opposed to looking for holes and issues.
Okay, now provide me a succinct steps through what's happening from start to finish. At what point am I reading? At what point am I signing? And then we get to the completion.
Fine.
Are you able to go and provide us with a succinct timeline?
I will try my best. I will try my best to not
Your
be...
challenge, if you choose to
My
accept
challenge
it.
is not to be a wordy lawyer. Okay, right. How do we start? Right. You'll come to say, I've put an offer in. Iain, would you act for me? Chris, that's brilliant. Here are my T's and C's. Here's my estimate for the costs. Can you have a look at those? Let me know that you're happy with them, send them back to me. As I know you, I wouldn't be verifying your identity, but if I didn't, I would be needing to do my checks to verify your identity. Yeah. I get that dealt with, yeah? Then I'll ask you for monies on account, okay? At the same time, running parallel to that, or I would have already expected to have received a sales memorandum that gives me the details of who the seller is, what you're buying and how much for, and who is acting for the seller, yeah?
Yep.
We put that all in place. You come back, sign your T's and C's and say, yes, Iain, happy for that. Here's your monies on account for your searches. I've got the contract pack come in from the other side. I've got the title that I can work out where I need to get my searches off. I put my searches in on your behalf, and that could be looking at 5, 10, couple of 2, 3 weeks maybe for that to happen.
Yep.
Alongside that, I guess I'll be going through the paperwork that I've had from the sellers to sort of say, Chris, here's the title. This is what the property looks like at the land registry. Does this reflect what you've seen when you've gone and inspected? Because don't forget, I won't necessarily be going to go and see the property that you're buying. Yeah.
Yep.
So we've done all of that, and I'm assuming, right, I've got parallel tracks there. I've got bits that have come up. Oh, actually, you've seen something there on the information that I've sent you. You've asked me to raise an inquiry with the other side. I raised that inquiry with the other side. Still got that train coming down the track with the searches. Oh, right, I've got the desktop environmental. That goes to you to say, yeah, that looks all clear. Or rather, oh, yeah, query about the flooding, risk of flooding, question back to there. So from my end, it's a question of it's probably best to keep the process moving by raising the inquiry. I could save them up and do them all in one go. And if all of my searches have come back in a timely fashion, yeah, I'll probably do that. But it might be that I've got stuff to you quickly and I've got those over to the other side. They've been answered. And then we're just waiting for the searches to come back to say, yeah. So in that process, it's probably just a question of looking out for, we've agreed how best I'll communicate with you. I'm talking to you on the phone or I'm sending you emails. We've covered that. Yeah. Goes on, all being well. It's connected to the mains drainage. There's no issues with that. The environmentals come back clear. There's no issues with that. We've had a local authority search. The extension that they've had done, yeah, it's got planning. It's got building regs. Yes, they've had the boiler serviced. Yes, it's got windows. Those have all been done. Yeah. And I'm in the situation, Chris, from a legal perspective, I've got no reason to tell you not to buy it. Yeah. I've reported to you as we've gone along, and I could bundle that all up as, I suppose, my property report is essentially going to be a stop point, a summary of this is what I have already told you.
Yes.
Almost at the start. I told you what I was going to tell you. I've told you what I am telling you what you need to know, and this is me telling you what I have told you.
Yes.
Yeah. And you'll sort of say, right, okay, yeah, happy to crack on.
And
yeah.
Do I sign something at that point?
At that point, normally we would be sending the property report shortly. Well, either the property report with the contract and the transfer or shortly before. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the contract is the bit that commits you to buy.
Yep.
Although, yeah, I say it commits you just signing. on it. It's just a signed bit of paper. Until I've dated it and exchanged it with the other side, it's just a bit of paper.
Understood.
Yeah. Exchange contracts, there will be a date in there that says this is the day on which we're completing. So in the between me exchanging contracts and the completion date, you will be sending me what you're throwing into the pot to buy. Could be the whole amount. It could be your 25%, whatever you've agreed with your lender. I will be sending a certificate of title to their bank to say, we're happy, can we have the borrower's money, please? Normally best practice, it might cost you a day's interest, but at least there's peace of mind. We ask for it the day before. Get it on the Thursday afternoon. Okay, it might cost you a day's interest, but at least then we're not waiting for the day of completion. It's got to 12 o'clock and there's no sign of the money from the bank. Yeah. All being well, the money's turn up. You might be saying, "Oh no, actually, just get it off. We'll live with the consequences of it turning up whenever it does on Friday." There's not a chain. I might be thinking, "Oh, okay, that's good." Money comes into our client account from the bank. I've had your top up the balance from you. We get that, send it over to the other side. They say, "Yep, thanks very much. Got your money." We've called the agent's keys released, and that's you bought.
Done.
Well, it is on the legal side of things because you mentioned stamp duty, land tax, because when I've got two further steps that I need to do post-completion, need to get the SDLT off within 14 days. Otherwise, there's a small penalty for late payment from Revenue and Customs and potentially interest. And more importantly, if it's a transact, I need to have what's called the SDLT 5, which is the proof that the SDLT has been submitted, to get the transfer off to the land registry. Yeah.
To transfer it to me.
The transfer is the bit of paper from the seller to you to say that you're now the owner. Yeah.
Got you.
But I need to get that registered. I need to go off to the land registry to get that registered. And I will tell you, at that moment in time, this might take a little while because the land registry has a estimated turnaround time that is surprisingly long.
But we've moved in by that point. That
you've moved in, yeah. You've moved in.
You still have to do a little bit more in the background afterwards. Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
there
interesting.
is, and that's it.
Brilliant. You did manage to do the succinct summary there. I like that. Right. I'm going to ask the question how people get in touch with you. I will just quickly move this out of the way because we've got the phone number and the website address. In terms of an email, how do they get in touch?
It's imason@optps.co.uk.
Brilliant. So as in Optimum Professional Services, of course. And they can get in touch and engage with you as their solicitor to work through this conveyancing. So there we go. That is what conveyancing is. It is that whole process that enables the title of one property to pass to somebody else.
Yeah, a very long way. A very involved process to get hold of a set of keys.
It is. I was going to say, if only it was that easy for you behind the scenes. But there we go. You take care of it. That's the important thing. So thank you very much,
That's
Iain.
all right, Chris.
I hope that has helped make sense. But any questions, don't hesitate. Get in touch with the team here at Optimum Professional Services, who of course do accountancy, legal and tax. And this of course was legal that we touched on today. So Iain Mason, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Chris. Thank you.